questions, comments? If none, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
I have one question on these minutes.
Go right ahead.
It's just a question. I noticed in the back on your expenses for the month, I see we have quite a bit of contract labor. Like for that month, it was like $25,000. Is that normal, about $25,000 a month for contract labor? Nursing? Contact nursing?
I'm sorry, is that this month or last month? Or what?
Oh, that was that was from February. I got the latest one, which I guess it's a month line. That was from February to March.
Well, yes, that would be within normal limits for contract nursing, yes.
Every month, so we do about $250,000 a year for contract nursing? Or?
Well, it'll vary. It'll be up and down. I'd have to look at the annuals to give you an update on that. But some months it's more than others.
So, would it be more economical, and I'm just asking, I'm not questioning, to hire or more nurses? Because that's awful expensive, isn't it?
Sir, yes, sir. If you go to our website here and we advertise elsewhere as well, we're constantly advertising for nurses. We're in competition with all of the hospitals in the region, including Hayes Med and Salina Regional. So,
sure.
Yes, we all use contract nursing.
Okay.
Nurses are, I guess to use an old expression like hen's teeth.
Okay. And I'm just asking.
Right.
But that seems to be a lot of money.
It is.
Yeah.
Nurses.
And they're not regular employees, so.
I'm sorry?
They're not regular employees. Now, they come at all shifts of the day or
Yes.
day, night, whatever?
Yes.
Okay.
Weekends.
Are they mostly RNs or everything?
Well, we use a little bit of everything, mostly RNs.
Okay. Okay, well, that's all I have. I'm just curious. But I see that's a big expense there. That's all I got.
I would move that we approve the minutes of the 16th board meeting. I'm sorry. March meeting. We have a motion made, second. Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of the last meeting with no corrections.
I will abstain. I wasn't present for that meeting.
One abstaining. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Mr. Treasurer, your report has come out and it looks pretty stable. Do you have any additional comments?
Nothing additional other than what's presented.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the Treasurer's report.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we accept the Treasurer's report as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the Treasurer's report as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We accept the Treasurer's report. Even when you're ready, we'll take the
medical staff meeting has been postponed until next Tuesday, so I don't have a report from medical staff today. We will report the activity at the May meeting.
The administrator's report.
Okay. I have several items. The first thing I'd like to do is pass around the letter from Troy Waymaster. We must read Lincoln Sentinel. That's the only place I know that this article appeared. So thank you, Jill. About the top-ranked hospital in quality care in Kansas, from the Kansas Healthcare Collaborative. So I would hand that around to the board. Appreciate the remarks from Mr. Waymaster. The other thing I have here is a thank you card from Kathy Robertson, the school superintendent, on a Stop the Bleed class in cooperation with our county partners at the County Health Department and Emergency Management. Katie Gardner, Krista Hazemeyer, basically taught classes at both of the school districts last fall and also did a presentation at the zombie preparedness meeting on Stop the Bleed, to train people to do first aid for serious wounds to limbs and elsewhere that are bleeding out. What she's thanking us for is that we had gotten some kits from the North Central Kansas Healthcare Coalition, which is basically filling in and doing the work that the Emergency Preparedness Committee used to do. They gave us, gave the hospital, or rather each county, but gave the hospital 8 of those kits. So 3 were donated to USD 298, another 3 were given to the USD 299. The kits include a tourniquet, which is a self-applying tourniquet. The latest basically was developed by the military over the past few years, various and sundry conflicts we've been in, but tourniquets have made a comeback. Trauma dressings, gauze, gloves, shears, things of that nature. So they were saying thank you for that. Basically, I got a card, Lincoln County Hospital, but County Health Department and Emergency Management participated in that training and things of that nature as well. Each year for the past 3 years, we've done a summer feeding program here in Lincoln County for the school children. This year, I'm in the midst of getting that ready to go again. We're going to have the feeding program this year in Lincoln. Will be at the Lincoln Senior Center, which I think is a good idea. The elementary school where we had it last year and the kindergarten are undergoing some major air conditioner upgrades, HVAC, heating, air conditioning and all of that, so we couldn't use their facilities. But the senior center has been kind enough to let us feed the children there, and they think it's a good idea as well. We will also be using the Sylvan Senior Center as a feeding site for that. Wanted to announce Krista Hasemeyer, our Chief Nursing Officer, has basically decided to pursue her bachelor's degree in nursing. To that end, and I had nothing to do with this election, she applied for a $2,000 scholarship from the Sunflower Health Network, and that was granted. So she's in the process of applying for a couple of other scholarships as well. I think it's good when we have that kind of self-development within our staff, and she's doing that. She's encouraging several of the other nurses to go ahead and do that as well. We've talked in the last little bit about corporate compliance. Our corporate compliance manual is still under development. We hope to have it by the end of May. We will get that to you then in June. It will be updated, be the latest and the greatest, and so we will go from there with that. One of the other things you asked me to work on is an update to the bylaws. And I just have a proposition for you, the board bylaws, this body's bylaws. This is what we get back from the attorney. It's called the red line edition, where everything's redlined out. I have this as a Word document that's much easier to read. I can provide you with either or both for your review at home, but it would be a Word document, and I don't know. It would probably going to have to be one of the newer versions of Word. I know they keep updating it, but I can provide it for you review paper. I can email it to you so it's in a Word document, which makes it easier to read. Provide both. Alan, I would basically download it to a thumb drive so that you could load that particular set of documents. But I just was kind of for your benefit and pleasure, what would you like? Do you want both the paper document as well as the electronic document?
Paper's better.
I will need the paper because
Computer was on its way to the dump.
Oh, okay. It'll join my computer there. Okay, well-
It's been violated by outsiders.
Okay.
I prefer paper, just paper.
Just paper?
Good evening.
Anybody else prefer just paper? Let me make a note. Lorelei, did I hear you say paper? All right. That's how it will be then. I will try to get that mailed to you for your review this week.
Okay, I'm sorry. What is it?
It's the red line copy of the board bylaws.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you.
and like I said, I can either email it to you
Yeah, no, that's good.
as a Word document or send you paper.
Yeah.
I find the Word
Hold it.
document easier to read, but I'm easy.
Yeah, mark it up.
Okay. All right, that's,
Could I get some of them too? The bylaws?
yes.
And you can just mail it to the commissioner.
Okay.
The address is courthouse.
It is a draft version.
Okay.
You know, it won't be finalized until the board's done with it. I just
Okay.
want you to know it's a draft.
Okay. So you're modifying the existing bylaws? Is that
Yes,
what you're
well,
doing?
we're updating.
Updating them. Okay.
Basically, I think the last time our bylaws were updated was approximately 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, and the laws have changed.
Sure.
So-
That's fine. I
Okay.
just kind of want to know what, yeah.
Okay, that sounds.
Because I'm stupid on that stuff, so it'd be
Well,
probably good for me
you know,
to
it's-
wait to try to read up on it a little bit.
It's not fun reading, but,
Legalese, huh? Have to get Mr. Triangle to
If you
explain it.
if you can't sleep some night, yeah, that would be some good reading to go through. One of the other things, again, I go through this in no particular order. Last month we had that full-scale exercise. County did their after-action report this past Friday, and what that does, it goes through and we look at successes, efficiencies, what we need to do better. So some working groups have been put together to address some of the issues, whether it's the hospital, the fire department, or EMS. So everybody attended that. Katie and Krista attended that last week, and so we've got that. We'll be going forward working on that as well. That'll include probably revisions to how we interact with those agencies, as well as revisions to our emergency preparedness documents. All right, one of the things I was asked to update on, and I don't have a written report, I will develop a written report for you. It's basically on our chronic pain management program that we've had. Lorelei, you had asked some questions about that. When this report was first developed, which you remember I forgot about it last month. So when this report was first developed, we had approximately 76 patients on pain management contracts. We had basically tested 10 of those patients, which is approximately 13%. We had 2 pass their pain management, their urine tests to see if they were in compliance or taking things they shouldn't. So we have dismissed 3 patients from the practice for non-compliance. 3 patients left the pain management program and 1 died, so we are down to 69. patients. I have talked with the staff. Again, if we're going to do this, we need to test every patient every year, so that's doing approximately at least six per month going forward. And the nurses pick them at random, and we go from there at the nurse's discretion. So, Lorelei, that was the report you had asked for, so that's the update that I have.
I guess then my question is there a policy that states all that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Can we have a copy of that at
I
some point?
can get you that, yes. Okay, all right. Let me make a note. The other thing that you had in your packets, and we can do a vote on it later in the meeting under new business. As you recall, last fall you voted to approve the quality improvement, quality assessment plan, as well as the general risk management plan. We have since been asked by the state to update some of the supplementary items that go into the risk management plan, and that's what was in your packets. Show you what it looks like. It looked like this. It basically outlines the chain of command. It had some of the forms, some of the people who make up the various and sundry committees. Mr. Chairman, at your discretion, the board can vote on this. I just wanted to note it.
We will
As
handle it in new business.
yes, that's perfectly acceptable to me. The other thing that is, I think I'll let you know via email, but want to make it basically public in some other ways, is that both Dr. Chima's, Dr. Arshad Chima and his wife, Yasmin Chima, will be moving to Lincoln tomorrow. And so we're looking forward to that. We're still working with the Board of Healing Arts on their licenses, but as we're working that through, we can get the Chimas on board with the electronic health records, some of the other policies and procedures. They have expressed an interest, and I will start setting up trips to Hayes and Salina so they can meet some of the pediatric specialists and other specialists in those two communities. They had asked for that. There'll be several other things that we'll be doing. So we can spend the time getting them oriented to the community, to the wider healthcare community that includes referrals to Salina and Hayes as well. And for now, that wraps up my report.
I have a question. You said you were getting them on board with the electronic training. You
Mhm.
just teach them how to use it or what?
Yes. I mean, it takes a while to learn. So, yes, we'll sit them down. We have a couple of different people who can walk them through that. We will acquaint them. There's a lot of online curricula for that. So
Okay.
acquaint them with that. And
So basically just doing whatever you can to get them ready that's not medical.
right. Well,
then-
yes, for everything medical. Yes, this will be the hospital and the clinic electronic health record.
Right, but what I mean is things they don't need a license to do.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so then will they be paid now or when they're actually licensed?
Well, basically, when they,
When do they start payroll, basically?
when they start their on-the-job training, it's normal for them to be on the payroll. So that's something we will work through this week.
Any idea when they'll be actually active as doctors do?
Hopefully within the next month. I wouldn't think it would take, the Board of Healing Arts has all the documents, but the caveat that goes with the Board of Healing Arts is they only meet once a month. So it's whether we've already hit their window for April that they can get the appropriate people in place to bless that license
Okay.
or not. That's just one of the vagaries of dealing with bureaucracy.
Okay.
One of the things the board requires, and I hope I'm not going into too much detail, but they require, they don't take electronic or other copies. Everything has to be an original certified document or
Like transcripts, like
Yep.
college transcripts?
Yes.
Okay.
Everything they've ever done,
Okay, then.
original documents. So. Any other questions on any of that, ladies, gentlemen? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I left out one thing. We've been, I apologize. We've been dealing with Mr. Gerstmann and the Coma Cora kind of laws. As I said at the last meeting, I got an opinion on some specific questions that the board had, that I had, regarding those laws and what they're allowed to do with redacting documents and things of that nature. So I talked both with our attorney and with the Kansas Attorney General's office. And based on that, I have a sheaf of documents for Mr. Gerstmann that go back to our January meeting. Again, the agenda is generic and basically doesn't change from meeting to meeting. So have included in this an agenda. We also have the statistics. We don't have any financial documents of this because our fiscal year ended March 31st. So the official final financial documents will be the ones that the board gets in August, which is the result of our annual audit. So we will go from there. So Mr. Gerstmann, I don't think I left anything out.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess I still have a question on that.
On what?
On this, what you just gave him. Like, what exactly are we subject to with Cora and Coma now? Do you know?
Well, we have to, once we, for instance, at this meeting, we approved the minutes of the March meeting.
Right.
Okay. So since that's signed and official, and since the treasurer's report is signed and official, then we'll get those documents to Mr. Gerstmann later. But anything, and the same thing goes for the accounts payable. The accounts payable aren't final until the board approves them. You know, because there are questions come up. Mr. Lohman raised a question and things of that nature. Otherwise, we can provide the statistics. There's a copy of the budget in there for him and some things of that nature. I just wanted to be sure that,
Okay, so
you know, that
basically,
we
it's all
dotted the i's
subject
and
once
crossed the
it's
t's.
finalized.
I'm sorry.
Basically, it's all subject to public once it's finalized.
As far as the minutes go, because if we, you know, I don't want to distribute minutes or other reports that the board hasn't seen that are subject to review. And so once they're finalized, then we can distribute them to Mr. Gerstmann.
What about like salaries and budgets and things like that?
Well, budgets, we can submit that, yes.
Okay.
And so-
how about salaries?
It would depend. There's some divisions in there. For instance, we contract with our physicians. We contract with people that are on the medical staff. things of that nature. Since they're technically contractors, their salaries are basically not reviewable. But all other hospital employees are considered basically public employees, like a county employee. So if they wanted to request those salaries, they could.
Okay. I just wondered what the rules were. 'Cause
Mhm.
And then did we pay a lawyer to look into all that for us?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they don't work for free.
Well, how much did that cost?
I don't know that I've seen the bill yet. I may have, but then again, I don't recall. It was, I think for all the work that they've done, it's been under $1,500, and they've done several reviews for us. But we have them review a number of documents, and I generally don't get a breakout. I just get in a monthly billing, so many hours. So I can't say, because we have the attorneys in general look at a lot of stuff. It's just the nature of the business we're in.
And so then would that information also be available to journalists? Like
What's that?
to Jill? Well, the things that
What Jill?
you just gave David.
Sure.
The things in our packet.
Well, yes, basically the statistics and the financial things, yes.
Okay. So we could have a packet then for her like we were talking about.
Well, no, I will not mail out a packet in advance. I can share
No,
the
I-
What if I
I
came
meant
and
here.
picked it up?
Huh?
What if I came and picked it up before the board meeting? That's what we
Yeah,
do at
that-
the school board.
Okay, that'd be fine. That'd be fine.
Thanks.
We'll
I
have
don't.
that
I wouldn't want
ready
to.
go.
I mean, I don't want any expense
Yeah.
incurred, but
Okay. And we'll have to review the cost of the printing and stuff. I was reliably informed earlier today that $1 a page is not out of line.
I'll pay for it.
So
Okay. Yeah.
that'll be fine.
Unemployment's good for something.
Is there any other questions for Mr. Brento? In that case, let's bring the question of old business to the board. Do we have any to bring up and discuss this month?
Well, I would like to revisit this question of scheduling the ER separate from the clinic and the hospital. Because when we talked about it last month, I think you suggested that Ellsworth still does that because they have these old-fashioned doctors who agree to that. But I've since looked into it and I found out that Beloit does it that way and Osborne Hospital also.
Hold on just a second.
Uh-huh.
Beloit and Ellsworth are institutionally different from us. In that Beloit does not employ the physicians in Beloit. All right, that's an independent practice. Those doctors decide among themselves who's taking call when, because they use it as an aggressive business development tool, or hope to. Ellsworth, I'm not sure of, but I think the only doctor they actually employ is the young lady they hired a couple of years ago. I'm not sure about the other two older doctors. You know, and yes, it's done differently in different places. But one way or another, you know, we have to find people to cover it. This board several years ago basically, did away with call for Dr. Dragoni, and that's kind of where this got started. We had two providers. One was a physician, and then we shifted to all mid-levels. But it's not unusual to have this with the Avera emergency. And I would like the opportunity, basically, to check with some other places and develop something for you rather than
That's what I was going to
calling
ask.
about.
If you could do a study of rural Kansas hospitals to see how many staff the way we do it, and how many staff the way these other rural hospitals around us seem to do it. Because
And then,
it just seems like it's a tremendous expense for our ER, and then we're not even getting any use out of this. People, like when we have crisis, we should be able to call those mid-levels in to work the clinic or the hospital and to help, I think.
well, we can, but we have to pay them extra.
Well,
I mean, everybody gets paid. for-
well, I understand that, but I think we can look at how our contracts are presented so that we pay them the smartest, most efficient way we can. And that's what I think really needs to be investigated, because it's just a huge expense that to me doesn't make any sense. Why we would have this totally separate group of doctors, why they don't work together like they do everywhere else in these different areas. Well, not, I would say everywhere, they probably don't do that in Salina. But in rural hospitals, I just want to know a study in Kansas, how many rural hospitals have a totally separate ER staff from the rest of their employees. So do you think y'all could do that?
I can look into that, yes.
Okay.
I'll look into that. But I would remind you that, we use these ER providers, although they don't do clinic work, they do hospital rounds on patients, and they care for the inpatients, and they do provide some services on weekends for outpatients. So it's just because they don't do clinic on a regular basis, I don't think you should characterize that as a waste.
Well, I just think we need to investigate it. Look at how our
Are you
contracts are set.
insinuating that as long as we had Barrett ER here, we don't need the mid-levels?
Absolutely not. I am not insinuating that. What I'm saying is that I believe that our mid-levels, our doctors, should be working ER, clinic, and hospital. And I think that's common in rural hospitals. You don't have separate for the different areas. That's how I see it in Osborne, Beloit, and Ellsworth, at least. I haven't checked anywhere else. Because it creates a great expense. You know, you're paying those emergency room doctors. They might have 2 or 3 things, and they're getting paid this really high wage, and they're hardly seeing anybody. And so why wouldn't you want to use them in these different places? The contracts, to me, should be written so we can get more use out of them. And the only reason I bring it up is because I just don't see it happening other places, other hospitals our size, the way we do. So it must not be incredibly lucrative or successful, or everyone would be doing it. See what I mean?
Not really.
Well, I think it's worth looking into. So that's old business.
Is there any other old business that needs to be attended to? If not, we're moving on to new business. Look at our accounts payable. Raise questions. Anyone have questions about it?
I have a question for Tony. Is Abby's married name down?
Yes.
Didn't know that.
Sure, go ahead.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve the accounts payable in the amount of $383,192.36.
Motion has been made to pay the bills in the amount of $388,192.36. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No opposition and pay the bills. Now we will look at the QARM, Quality Assurance Risk Management Organizational Chart. And make a decision on accept or reject.
Is this the previous one, or is this going to be the current?
This is the update. This is an updated addendum to the overall risk management program. It updates it as far as committee memberships go and some of the forms that KDHE and other organizations have changed and now want us to use.
I was wondering if it was like Abby and Joe Black or something.
Yes, but Abby and Joe Black are both on staff here.
Still?
Yes.
Something for the crew.
No, Joe's working here. Maybe deal with him. Abby basically left and came back. She's now one of our emergency room providers. So they're both on medical staff.
Does Joe have a contract for a certain date, or what is his plan, do you know?
Oh, he's working basically hourly. The latest agreement I struck with him is through the end of August.
And they'll talk him into staying again, won't they?
I think they will.
Need a motion to accept it then?
Please.
Make a motion to accept the organizational chart for quality management.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded to accept the organizational chart for quality assurance risk management as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Now we need your signature, sir.
Right. Motion is carried.
Page 16. Thank you, sir.
Signed into law. Do we have any other new business to conduct this evening?
Yeah, I have several things. One is, I'm wondering, I don't see Jack here. I'm sorry I was late. Is he still on the board?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Can you explain? I don't know why.
He no longer wished to serve, and so he asked not to be reappointed. So
Okay.
And I've tried to ask like up to 10 people so far to, and I haven't, no one wanted to be on the board yet. So I'm looking, trying in the first district, trying to get someone.
Oh, how long, when did he resign?
He didn't actually resign, his term ended.
And he didn't, and he asked not to be reappointed.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
There was 3 of us that ended in February.
Well,
It was
we
February.
reappointed,
Okay.
reappointed you guys.
Okay, I just wondered because I didn't see him and I didn't know him. Okay. Then I,
And we're trying to get some new.
You want to go have fun somewhere else.
yeah, I understand. Well, I also had a question about who does the scheduling for the hospital, the clinic. Who makes the schedule?
Well, different people in different departments make their schedules.
Okay.
So you have to cone that down. Now, for the acute nursing staff on the floor of the inpatient and skilled beds, generally that's Krista Haselmeyer.
So would that be the hospital?
That's
staff
just, no, that's
nursing?
just nursing.
That's like
just
the
nursing.
hospital nursing.
Yes, hospital nursing.
Well, this is why I ask. I have been told for years by many people, although I've never actually walked up here to see if it's true, that we have a lot more staff on duty at the same time in the hospital than we really need. And I know there was one day last week when there were 3 management nurses, 1 agency nurse, 1 floor nurse, and 2 CNAs, so 7 nursing for 1 swing bed patient at the hospital. And I also know, right now we're in a situation where we don't even have any providers, and yet our clinic is fully staffed, and our hospital seems to be fully staffed. And I guess I don't understand why we wouldn't adjust. Like right now, when there isn't even a provider in the clinic, why do we have all those people just hanging out?
Well, they're not just hanging out. Basically, we're still managing some patient issues for referrals and things of that nature. It's the same thing on the nursing floor. You never know what's going to walk in the door, Lorelei, or at what time of day it will be, or what kind of shape they'll be in. So our nursing staff, when they're working the acute care floor and the swing bed, they're also responsible for the emergency room.
Right.
Okay? So, we don't know what's coming in the door, but we have to staff like all kinds of bad things are going to happen.
Agree that 7 nurses is overkill for 1 patient?
I don't know what day you're talking about, and I'd have to...
if it were true, would you agree?
No, I am in charge, and I think our staffing is just fine.
That's not how a hospital works.
Yeah.
You don't staff for what you have here this moment. You staff for what you may need the next moment.
Right. But I
Like
know...
a policeman carries a gun.
But I bet a policeman won't have 12 people on a beat. He'll have 2.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to interject here if I could, please.
You have the floor. Go ahead.
This is a policy-making body, and these questions are not a matter of policy. These are a matter of staffing. These are matters of management. And I would suggest that if a board member has questions about the management of the hospital, that they perhaps could submit those questions in some other form or some other way than the time allotted for policy decision making. So I guess what I'm saying is these questions are inappropriate for this board meeting.
Okay, what I guess I'd say to you is, you made this comment a month or 2 ago. I've probably asked 15 people, what is a policy board? I talked to people who've worked in government, people who've worked on school boards. Nobody knew what I was talking about. they all said that they thought it was ridiculous that a board would not know what was going on in the institution it is to look over, and that they would not address issues that were brought to their attention as being problematic. No matter what kind of board you want to call yourself, you know, you're not necessarily hired to.
I didn't say you shouldn't do it. I just said it wasn't appropriate in this meeting.
Well, why not?
Well, because it's not a matter of policy. And a policy setting board is exactly that. It's a board that sets policy. And we've had this discussion before. We don't hire and fire people. It's not our responsibility to make the schedule.
Okay, so then
it's
I'll.
our responsibility to figure out whether or not Steve's doing a good job. And if you want to find out about the things that you're asking about, then I suggest that you ask Steve directly.
So then if we have a policy, here's a question, do we have a policy regarding staffing, and if so, can we see it and discuss it?
Or
Because if we're a policy board, if there's a policy regarding staffing, we should know what that is.
well, staffing per se isn't a full policy subject. It's a
Well, how do you
management
know?
subject.
Who makes that rule?
Laura, how long have you been on the board?
I have no idea. It seems
Don't
like
know.
forever, but I really don't know.
Why? And these policies haven't changed ever since you've been on the board. Now that you're just now realizing that you've got questions. That's what befuddles me.
What do you mean? I'm now realizing I have questions.
Well-
I've had questions. I've been bringing questions to this board for months.
But you never brought
And-
this up before.
Yeah, I have. I have in the past brought up questions about the fact that I feel we have more nurses on staff than we do at any given time. That has been brought up before by me.
Well, it just seems like you've been on the board for several years, 5 years.
Going on 6.
And that's the first time I've heard you bring it up.
Well,
Maybe I missed that. Maybe.
okay, let's say, I disagree. Let's say I just brought it up. If it was an issue that needed to be addressed, should we not address it because I didn't bring it up sooner? What difference does it make? You know, I just want to cut to something here that I have a question about in new business. I went to address what I call the policy of ignorance. And this is the idea that nothing can be brought before this board unless it has been presented by the hospital administrator. Board members seem to want to remain as ignorant as possible about all things going on in this institution unless Steve seems fit to share his perspective. And I feel that this is an ignorant and self-defeating approach that will not improve or protect the hospital, its clinic, or staff, or patients. Our hospital claims to have an open-door policy, yet staff members are censured for approaching board members to discuss obvious problems that ought to be addressed. I also find the policy is not enforced equitably. When problems came up, here was Jack working at the hospital, so how could he be as ignorant as the rest of us? He was asked to interview people in times of crisis. He was asked to serve as a go-between between different parties, and that was all fine. Yet when people approach me and ask a question, I'm a meddlesome pot stirrer, and he was a man of great sage wisdom. I don't see the equity in that approach. Either we're all ignorant or none of us is, or all of us are informed, but it shouldn't be some of this and some of that. I've been bringing to this board for months troubling practices and dysfunctional operations in the clinic, and all you ever want to know is how I got my information. It seems to me you have no interest in addressing the problems of Lincoln County Hospital. Your only interest is in hiding them. And in the I feel like if this entire city was on fire, you would want to know how I found out and how we could keep anybody else from noticing. The point is that people are noticing. A receptionist at Ellsworth Rural Medical Clinic told me today that she wished she had had a heads up on things going on because they're going to have to hire another receptionist to cover the volume of calls they're receiving for patients who want to come over there. So people in Lincoln County and beyond Lincoln County are noticing that there are issues. And I don't understand what y'all thought it meant when you took on the responsibility of serving on this board. But for me, it doesn't mean sticking my head in the sand and seeing and hearing and speaking no evil. It means becoming knowledgeable about facts, wherever they might come from, and doing my duty to protect and improve the hospital, the staff, looking out for the patients of Lincoln County. Our own bylaws open with a statement that Lincoln County Hospital is responsible for delivering quality, cost-effective, efficient health care to the community. And I feel that we are failing in that mission, and we just need to know that covering our eyes and ears and pretending it isn't so doesn't make it different. I don't understand why we don't want to address questions and issues on this board.
I guess my only point.
Or write policies that would address
I
those
guess
questions
my
and
original
issues.
point is that I have had occasion a number of times to have questions similar to what you've had. And so I show up at Steve's office and ask him the question. And I get an answer, or I don't, whatever. And if I felt that the answers that I got were incomplete or inappropriate or whatever, then that would be a question about whether or not Steve was managing properly. And I would bring that to this board and say that I don't believe Steve is doing a good job. What I don't do is take board time to say, Steve, I want to know about this thing. I did that outside the board. That's my point. If there's things you want to know, ask the appropriate person, but I don't think this board really is the appropriate thing to do it.
So then did you talk to other members of the board about those conversations?
No, that would be ex parte communication. That
Right,
would be
so then how could
communication
the board
outside.
ever become informed of anything?
Well, like I say, if I thought I had a decision, or if I thought I had an issue that wasn't adequately answered by Steve, then I would have brought it up as an item of business. I've not had occasion to do that.
I see. Well, I guess I don't understand the responsibility I have on this board. Because it seems to me like we come here, we get told that everything's great, we go home. And if somebody comes to us and says, it's not great, there's issues, I'm worried, we're, shh, for God's sake, don't mention that to anyone. Don't talk about it, don't think about it, put it out of your mind, and just boom, ahead we go. And I guess I just don't see how that's doing my responsibility. I did it for a lot of years. I just came here and sat and listened and ate and went home like everybody else. And it just finally seemed like things had gotten to the point where that was irresponsible. Not just, it was irresponsible. So that's why I'm now bringing things up. I've been bringing things up for 8 months. I looked on my calendar today. The first time I brought a question here that I was censured for raising was 8 months ago. And I guess I just feel like if we put half as much effort into addressing issues as we do into quieting them and worrying about who might have mentioned them, we could have some of these things fixed. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see some improvements in some of these things. Because they're serious issues. I think we all have to agree with that. So, that said, I have other new business. My question is, have we been paid the money that Lincoln Park Manor owes us for the meals that Lincoln County Hospital made?
No.
What was?
Nor have we been paid for the laundry, nor have we been paid the last few months for the laboratory that they've used.
Do you have an idea what the amount is?
The overall amount, I would say, is $32,000 to $37,000 when you add in the laboratory.
All right, then. I move that Lincoln County Hospital sue Lincoln Park Manor for the exact amount of money that they owe us from the services that we have provided over the past years for which we have not been paid.
A motion?
Yes, I move that.
Board Member Lorelei has made a motion that we enter a lawsuit with Lincoln Park Manor to collect debts. So, do we have a second?
May I ask why no one thinks that we should get the money we're owed?
We have, motion has been made and lack of a second.
Okay, so may I ask why nobody thinks we should get the money that we're owed?
Because it's not just about us, it's about the community. I mean, Randy can tell us that they're struggling to keep, well, I will say that in my part, I think that Lincoln Park Manor is worth preserving, okay? It needs to stay open.
I agree.
And I think that the commissioners are doing everything that they can to make that happen. And I think that if we sue Lincoln Park Manor, you know, who's going to pay it? The county's going to pay it. Well, I mean,
You don't think, where'd the money come from?
Well, I don't want to give a bunch of names because I don't want to end up in a lawsuit. But I think that people who do not pay their debts should be made to pay their debts. And I think that those debts could be paid if we exerted any pressure to get them. But we all just sit back in terror that, gee, things might go south, so let's not cause any problems. And meanwhile, we are getting taken.
I think there are plenty of problems to go around, and I don't think that the commissioners would appreciate us exacerbating the situation by just adding another layer of.
Well, I know that the commissioners also would, some of them, would also like to collect the money that they're owed, rent. And I don't understand why they're not passing a motion to collect this money. I don't understand why we're all just sitting.
I've been talking to Mr. Grace about
Yeah.
possible renegotiating and just some talks now with the annuity, because he knows I brought up these topics that he's behind on the rent, behind on accounts payable. We know that. We brought up yesterday possible lawsuit issue, and I didn't want to second that because I'm still wanting to deal with him a possible renegotiation of a new lease, possibly. Now, I don't know if that happened or not, but I'm wanting to talk to him yet on that. So I'm wanting to hold off on this lawsuit stuff. That's where I come from, and we talked about that yesterday at the commission meeting. So I understand the county, the hospital, he owes us money. You're right. But I'm personally talking to him and see if we can do something to fix that. I don't know if we can, maybe not. Maybe not, I don't know. But I'm talking to him on it. Until then, that's why I'm holding up on it, and I did yesterday at the commission meeting too.
Okay.
So I know
you could conceivably see a point where we should try to collect our money?
Well, I was trying to renegotiate with him something, and then we would work out where he would pay back this stuff, possibly.
Okay.
We talked about that.
So then would Lake County Hospital, would we have to negotiate with him separately, or?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because we should probably be negotiating too then. So
Well,
we can try to figure out how
I'm
we
getting
get
with
reimbursed.
him, but I'm going to get him. I'm going to put this out because we're going to say the county's getting to the point where we need to know what's going on with him or not, dealing with him or not. And Alexis is already looking with other management firms, possibly, and our attorneys are pursuing that also. So we're that way too. But I don't know if it's possible that if we could maybe do something with Mr. Grace and renegotiate and maybe keep it on. I don't know if the community wants that or not. I'm just talking to him about it, so that's where we're at, okay? Did you?
We have always worked in cooperation to the best of our ability with the Board of County Commissioners on the whole Lincoln Park Manor issue. We voluntarily brought before this board the thing about the food, the laundry, because Lincoln Park Manor, under county supervision, was being renovated. And that's why we participated in that, because we do support health care in this county, all right? So I've always been reassured by county commissioners that we just need to be patient. When this all works out, we'll be taken care of. So I want to work on the side of the county commissioners and what they're doing. That's why I was on that working group for several months last fall, which I informed you all about on a regular basis. That has since evolved, and so it's basically in the hands of the county commissioners. That would be Randy,
Right.
Alexis,
Mm-hmm.
Al Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confident that they will do their best on behalf of this hospital. And so my propensity is to trust those people until they tell me or act differently to violate that trust. So
But
I've not been in any hurry to try and get blood out of the stone, because that's basically what Lincoln Park Manor is. That Lincoln Park Manor is important to the healthcare of this area. It's important to this hospital because that's a source of income for us in a variety of ways. So I think, like a lot of the other residents of the county, we need to be patient and let our county commissioners work through this particular set of circumstances. And I think we need to stay on the side of the county commission.
Well, sure. I'm
And
happy
that-
to hear what your side
Well,
is.
and I know this has been dragging on for a long time. It is a complex issue. Alexis and Aljo worked on it, and Terry before, because you have multiple things going on with, you have to deal with the state and licenses, a lot of compliances. So we've been working on it.
Well,
But I'm going to get with Mr. Grayson. I'm going to say, hey, we're at the point where let's do something, or we may have to change or do something else. So, and I've been talking to him. I told Alexis and Aljo that.
Well, I want to make sure you understand that I realize the value of Lincoln Park Manor to the hospital
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to the community.
Yeah.
I just think that
No, but
dragging it out in the same situation with the same no result isn't necessarily in the best
have
interests of the town
You have a
or
very
the
good
twins.
point here. The hospital's not getting paid. We have other accounts payable in the county. Other people
Mm-hmm.
have not been paid. We know that, and that's an issue, and that's going to have to be addressed one way or another.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah. And I hope to report at the commission meeting more about that coming up soon.
Okay.
With him, and whether we are dealing with him or not, or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to say right now. But that's where I'm at.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have in business.
Any other new business? To bring before this board. All right, then.
We do have one more item of new business, and we will need an executive session to discuss non-elected personnel. Those present should be the board, Dr. Vidoni, myself, and Tanya.
Okay, motion will move recess into executive
You
session.
wanted to have a recess before we
That's
did
right.
that. I was just reminding you that that was the next piece of business before the board. You wanted to take a
The chair is going to call for a 5-minute recess
Okay.
for comfort.
And then will you redo the motion for in session?
Yes.
Okay, because I didn't hear how long it's going to take. I don't think we got there. I don't think we did.
We're in the recess now.
I'm
If they could go. All right.
No matters of non-elected personnel is authorized by Section 75-4319, subsection B, subsection 1 of Kansas Open Meetings Act for 25 minutes, with Dr. Vidoni present, Steve Ransdell present, and Tanya Sykes present. And we convene in whatever that time is, 25 minutes from now. 7:35.
Motion has been made. Move. Motion has been made to recess into executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel.
Take care.
As authorized by Section 754319, Kansas Open Meetings Act, for 25 minutes. Persons present or members of this board. Tanya? Stephen? Dr. B? We will reconvene in the open meeting in this very room at 7:35 hours. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are in executive session. 35?
Yeah.
Okay. My mistake.
We have 10 more minutes.
We're still in
We're still in session.
That's what I thought.
I didn't even look.
Under the law, if everybody that's on your meeting notify list is present, you're not violating the act if you call an executive session short.
Mr. Chairman, I hereby move we to recess into executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel authorized by Section 754319B, Paragraph 1 of the Kansas Open Meetings Act for 30 minutes with the board members, Dr. Dragoni, Steve Granzo, and Tanya Sykes. Convene the open meeting in this room at 8:06. 7:36 right now, so 30 minutes would be 8:06.
Motion is made and seconded to recess into executive session to discuss matters of personnel, non-elected personnel, as authorized by Section 754319, yada, 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 Kansas Open Meetings Act for 30 minutes with board members present. Tanya, Stephen, Dr. D. Meeting will reconvene in this room at 8:06. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. We are in.
Are we back in open session now?
Yes. We're standard.
This is not a motion at this point in time, but it was my intent to make a motion to go back into executive session for 10 minutes with board members only present. Anybody have an objection to that?
Talk about personnel.
Yes, better. Yeah, I'll read the motion again, but. So, I'm going to make that motion just as soon as I can find the paperwork. Yeah, I'm trying to be all timey.
I'll give you mine.
That's where you stepped wrong.
I know. It's awful, isn't it?
There you are.
If there's something you want to say in open session, please say it before I make a motion. All right, I hereby move recess into executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel as authorized by Section 754319B, Section 1 of the Kansas Open Meeting Act for 10 minutes with board members only present, and we would reconvene at 8:17.
Motion has been made and seconded to move into recess to executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel as authorized by 75-4319B1 the Kansas Open Meetings Act for 10 minutes with board members only present. We will reconvene to open meeting in this room at 8:17 p.m. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No opposition, we're in executive session.